Good afternoon and welcome to Senator Ben Hansen, legislative candidate from District 16. Thank you, Senator Hansen, for joining us for our virtual legislative candidate meetings. My name is Gina Ragland, and joining me today are AARP lead advocacy volunteers, Susan DeCamp, Joyce Beck, Tim Potter, and Mike Barwig. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with AARP members across your district prior to the election. Senator Hansen, we appreciate your taking the next 30 minutes of your time to meet and discuss issues of importance to the 50-plus voter and their families in your district and across Nebraska. As a little bit of background, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering and strengthening people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. As people live longer, healthier lives, we know we need to think differently about what it means to age. With that, Senator, if you want to start us off by giving us a little background about yourself and your campaign, thinking 5 minutes or less on that would be great. And then once we've completed your opening, we'll move into the question. So welcome, Senator Hansen.
Yeah, well, thanks, Gina. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is Senator Ben Hansen, and I represent District 16 in the state legislature in Nebraska. And that is Washington, Burt, and Cumming County, and now part of Stanton County because of the redistricting lately. So I am on the HHS committee, the agriculture committee, and I'm currently the chair of the business and labor committee. Been in the legislature for 4 years now and ready to give it a whirl again for another 4 years. And so I'm actually up for re-election this year and pretty excited about the potential for the legislature and some of the positive changes we can make for Nebraska, and kind of looking forward to being a part of that. I live in Blair, Nebraska. I am a chiropractor. I have a 2-doctor clinic in Blair, and I have another 2-doctor clinic in Omaha. I also own 3 other businesses. Heritage Barnwood Company, where we reclaim and refurbish barnwood and make custom furniture out of it. Blair Rent-It Center, which is a rental company that rents out construction equipment and tables and chairs and bounce houses. And recently we just opened up Vivify Holistics and Massage, which has massage and one of those saltwater float tanks and foot baths and all that fun stuff. So we just opened that up last month, and that's actually going pretty good. So I have a wife at home, Jill, and a 5-year-old daughter, Olivia. I say she's 5, but it's more like 5 going on 16. She's my only child, and I'm already getting nervous of when she turns like 10, and so I have no idea what's going to happen. And so luckily I have 5 years down the road for that, but getting excited to spend time with her in the interim right now and until legislature starts up. So but yeah, so far looking forward to next year, and in November with the election we did pretty good in the primary, so things are looking pretty good for November, and we'll see what happens here in a few months. So
perfect. Thank you, Senator Hansen. Thanks for sharing about your family. We love to hear those things, especially your businesses. I think you need a few more things to put on your plate. Don't seem to be busy. So, but we do appreciate that. And again, thank you for your leadership in the legislature the past few years. We do appreciate that. So moving on then into the questions, we have provided you with a set of 3 issues containing 4 questions pertaining to the 50-plus in Nebraska. And again, allotting about 5 minutes for each of those questions. We'll begin with question 1, which is health, caregiving, and home and community-based services. And Susan DeCamp will take that one. So go ahead, Susan.
Thanks, Gina. Good afternoon, Senator Hansen.
good afternoon.
Thanks for taking your time to be with us today. As you well know, home and community-based services, also known as HCBS, provides an array of services to help people with their daily living activities that promotes independence and allows them to age in place in their own homes and communities and delay that entrance into the institutional care. Family caregivers also provide care for someone who is not able to take care of themselves or live independently. These caregivers are family members, friends, or acquaintances who often provide this care without any pay. And we're finding out that telehealth services can be significant for seniors, particularly in the rural areas and the underserved communities. And they can also provide support to family caregivers by reducing travel and wait times and other costs associated with being a caregiver. So we have 2 questions for you on this topic. The first question is, what will you do to support the 240,000 unpaid family caregivers in Nebraska through policies such as enhanced respite services, access to telehealth, caregiver education and training, and help with out-of-pocket expenses? And the second question, what will you do to protect and or expand the home and community-based services program, particularly in the area of recruitment and retention of a sufficient workforce, and also adequate funding of the services that Nebraskans and their families rely on?
All right, good. I like those questions. So as maybe a lot of people might know, I am pretty strong fiscal conservative politician. And so the idea of making home-based care or healthcare in general in the state of Nebraska as efficient and appropriate as possible are some of my priorities. And according to the data, from what I've seen anyway, home-based services, as opposed to other kinds of services, have seemed to, cost-wise, been some of the most efficient ways we can actually take care of those who are unable to take care of themselves, not just from a financial aspect, but also from a emotional aspect. A lot of people like to be in their homes, they like being in your home, being comfortable, being positive, being having emotional support is one of the best ways you can remain healthy. Again, being a chiropractor, we always believe health is your thoughts, traumas, and toxins, right? And so thoughts is a big part of healthcare, and some of the most neglected parts of healthcare, actually. And the stress of daily life, the stress of not being in your home, the stress of being unable to take care of yourself. And so home-based care, from, again, not just a financial aspect, seems to be one of the most appropriate ways that the state can hopefully kind of facilitate people being able to live in their homes, being able to not just take care of themselves, but have somebody else help take care of them as well. And so far, from what I remember, any policy or policy changes that have come from the state, I've been mostly supportive of home-based care. I think actually last year I passed a bill that had to do with bathing, including that as part of Medicaid reimbursement. And so it was one of the things that was kind of left out. So pretty happy that kind of passed without too much trouble. But to answer your question, in a nutshell, people being at home, people being able to be surrounded by their familiar, environment, I think is a big part of making sure that we can help maintain health and help save taxpayer dollars in the same way. So.
Great. Thank you for your answer, Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Senator. Our second question kind of goes now into a facility perspective. So nursing facility quality. Joyce Beck is going to take that. So go ahead, Joyce.
So Senator Hansen, thank you for giving us some of your time this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
20,000 Nebraskans require care in nursing facilities or assisted living communities. Facilities have closed their doors, citing reimbursement challenges and staffing shortages. Nebraska will need an additional 4,700 more nursing assistants, LPNs, and RNs by 2028 to meet Nebraskans' care needs. Everyone, regardless of where they reside, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect and have access to quality medical care. Better staff to resident ratios improve overall quality of care and the well-being of residents. Workforce recruitment, retention, and job satisfaction challenges are prevalent across the long-term services and support industry. Causes of workforce challenges must be identified and implemented to respond to the growing need for high-quality care. So, Senator Hansen, here's my question for you. What will you do to improve the quality of nursing facility care for Nebraska residents, including addressing the growing long-term care workforce crisis in the state, professional education and training, and accountable facility reimbursement?
Good. Another good question. And I think you, even in your question, almost kind of helped answer it. in my opinion, right? You said addressing the reasons why we are not seeing people go into the workforce, right? And so I think it has to be a little bit of a mixture of, finding the root cause of maybe why we don't have enough nurses, why we don't have enough, skilled workforce. Part of it could be pay. Part of it could be a lack of education, but I think that's one of the first things I think we need to kind of address is why aren't more people getting into this? And so now, again, the next question you probably have to ask is how much should the state get involved in an industry with taxpayer money? And so obviously helping take care of those who are unable to take care of themselves should be a priority of the state of Nebraska. And I think I was very happy last year I think we increased provider rates by 15, almost 30%, if I remember right. And we kind of held the line on that one over the veto to make sure that we help, make sure we pay providers the right amount in long-term healthcare facilities so we can at least maintain proper care. And then B, doing everything we can to make sure that we kind of keep some of these facilities open. And I think it might be a little bit of even somewhat of a societal issue to some extent too, is how do we get the family involved to help take care as well? And that may be some of the in-home care that you're talking about, family members taking care of those who aren't able to take care of themselves in home, which might alleviate some of the strain on long-term healthcare facilities. So I think it's definitely a multifaceted problem, and it's hard to answer in one question about what we should do, because I think it involves a whole bunch of different things. I think what's encouraging is, especially the last couple of years, we have seen a lot more attention legislatively and in the Senate body about the crisis of long-term healthcare facilities and how many are closing, and then what role the state should play in it. And we're starting to see the state play a bigger and bigger role every year. So I think it's only going to get more attention in the years to come.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Our final question for discussion today centers around livable communities and helping people stay in their home. And Tim Potter is going to take that. So go ahead, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Gina. And thank you, Senator, for being with us today. A livable community is safe and secure, offers affordable housing and transportation options that allow individuals to travel by multiple means, and provide supportive community features and services for people of all ages, allowing people to remain in their communities as they age. Affordable and reliable healthcare and transit options are critical to support older Nebraskans aging in place. High-speed internet should be affordable, reliable, and accessible for all Nebraskans. Digital skills development is also essential to obtaining the benefits of high-speed internet access in the home. So my question is, what will you do to ensure all Nebraskans, mainly those 50 plus, have access to livable communities which offer affordable housing, diverse transportation options, adequate health care, and affordable, reliable, and accessible high internet, including digital skills development?
Okay. Again, each one of those, whenever I think of what my role is as how involved the government should be, each one of those things you mentioned, I think has a different involvement of government, some being greater, some being less. And that's just my personal philosophy. When it comes to internet, for instance, I think the government should play a big role in that. I mean, just like we did when telephone lines came in, certain requirements that they had to make sure people had adequate access to telephone lines. Internet is no different. I think in this day and age, internet access isn't so much a want as it is more of a necessity, not just for skills training for those of 15 above, but for a whole bunch of other means. And so I think, especially the last couple of years, we've been seeing a greater trend in the legislature, more, I think, in the rural communities, because it's much more difficult to help get adequate, accessible internet access to individuals, because now it's become a greater and greater part of our lives, especially for job creation, job development, telehealth, right? And so I think we've been seeing a trend there in Nebraska, incentivizing that more. Again, it depends on how much money you think taxpayer money should go towards private businesses to develop something. But when it's becoming more of a necessity versus a want, I think the state can play a bigger role in it. It just depends on how much of a bigger role you think we should play in it. I think I would like to see, and I think ideally anybody would in government, would like to see the community be much more involved in helping not just with transportation, but with the community, with access to certain things for those 15 above. I think we've kind of lost that a little bit over the last few decades. I don't know if it's a family issue or a societal issue about the responsibility of the young taking care of the old. Again, maybe it's because of social media and we kind of concentrate on ourselves a little bit more than we do other people. But I always been under the understanding that your parents and grandparents took care of you, and you need to reciprocate that when they get older. Whether that's they live with you in the home, whether that's you do what you can to help make sure they have adequate transportation as a family, helping them and your community give them greater access to facilities, whether it's parks. But I think we've lost that a little bit over the years about not just responsibility, but just it's our duty, I guess, to help take care of those 50, 60, 70 and above. And I just I'm not seeing that as much, which means then government now and taxpayer money has to play a bigger role. Now we have to make a decision how big of a role we're supposed to play. And that's kind of what I alluded to earlier. So again, another multifaceted question with different kinds of answers. But that's kind of where my kind of thoughts lie.
Okay, well, we appreciate your views on that.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. As we're now coming to the end of our meeting here, I would like to offer you back some final minutes for closing thoughts or comments that you might have for our members and any of the constituents within your district that you represent. So I'll give it back to you. You have about 5 minutes of closing if you want that. So go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Gina. Well, first of all, I just want to thank AARP for allowing me to speak. I know I've leaned on your organization many times for opinions. For bills that come up and during hearings. And so I think it's been extremely helpful because any politician who tells you they know everything just told you they know nothing, right? And so I think we need to lean on those who know more than we do in certain aspects. And that's where AARP and Gina and you guys all come in. So I think it's very helpful for us here in Lincoln. Like I mentioned before, and I'm going to reiterate this again, I'm hoping we can, as a society, encourage our young to help take care of our old. I just want to make sure we don't lose that. And so I think that's where primarily our responsibility is as a society ahead of government. There definitely is a role of government can play in long-term healthcare facilities and in-home care. In transportation, in telecommunication, but I want to make sure we don't lose the other part of our community, and that is us helping take care of each other. I just want to make sure we don't forget about that, and I'm hoping AARP and everybody else can help kind of make sure that we can all kind of have an equal part of private and public taking care of those who are 50 and above. So one other thing is anybody in my district or even anybody in the state of Nebraska can always contact me, can always call me. My phone is always on. I'm always around. I do my best I can to respond to almost every email that comes to me personally. And so if anybody has any thoughts or concerns about a bill that's on the floor or wants to express their views, I never discourage that because that's why I'm here, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and my 5-year-old sometimes doesn't like it, but I usually wait for her to go to bed. Now that she's in kindergarten, she's in bed a little bit earlier, so I can kind of do some of that stuff after she goes to bed, which is nice. So I just want to make sure I don't discourage anybody from contacting me. So thank you, Gina.
Perfect. Thank you, Senator Hansen, for taking the time to visit with us. I know, again, you're busy, you're out campaigning, you're trying to run your businesses and such. So we do appreciate your time. We do wish you the best with your campaign. And most importantly, thank you again for meeting with AARP today. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.